Alright then, lads, ladies, and those of us who know better, I've made no secret of the fact that I am a huge Good Omens fan, and Good Omens has had more than one iteration. So there are different videos already online discussing the differences that they made when they adapted the book to the show, but I'm just going to be ranking it out of my personal preference and just which I enjoyed more. So, coming in at number 4, I'm sorry, it's the book. Look, I know the book has a very soft spot in our hearts, and it was the starting point for everything, so we would not be where we are now if it weren't for it, but you can definitely tell it was written in the 90s, and okay, here's my review, not gay enough. And it definitely had some funny moments. Again, this is not a, oh, whatever's last is terrible or whatever. These are all inherently really good pieces of media. They just have different failings, and I can be quite picky sometimes. So, unfortunately, the book is going in bottom place. There's a little bit of some racism sprinkled in there, but if you want a more in-depth version of that, just go listen to Dominic Noble's videos about Good Omens. He talked about this pretty in-depth. And coming in at number 3, Radio Omens, aka the BBC radio drama edition of Good Omens. So I only listened to this thing a few days ago as part of a live stream thing on a Discord group, but I have to say I really enjoyed it. I was one of the people who suggested that we listen to it in the first place, so I was pretty hyped, and it didn't disappoint. It took me a while to get into, but one of the failings I would say of the book is that we're really there for Aziraphale and Crowley, and a lot of the plot isn't Aziraphale and Crowley. I will readily admit that I don't like kids very much, so anything to do with the them, or anything that Newt and Anathema had going on, I was pretty bored. But I think Radio Omens actually had my favourite version of the kids, Newt and Anathema. It took me a while to realise where I heard Anathema's voice actress before. That is Charlotte Ritchie, who was Allison in Ghosts. So, pretty stacked cast. And really, some of the jokes were hilarious, and specifically the Radio Omens edition of Aziraphale is so good. I'm not sure how much swearing YouTube lets you get away with, but oh my god. He's just a bastard in every scene he's in, and I love it. I was actively looking forward to the line right at the very end, because I had seen an animatic of it before, which you should watch, it's on YouTube, where Aziraphale asks Crowley, you do know what the road to hell is paved with? And Crowley just says, in the most dramatic voice, frozen door-to-door salesman, I know, I paved it. Something about that just cracks me up every time I hear it, especially with their delivery. Aziraphale and Crowley's voice actors really knocked it out. If you're going into it from the perspective of having seen the show, it's not like the show. This isn't Michael Sheen and David Tennant. Oh, flip. Crowley's voiced by Peter, something that begins with an S, and then there's about 6 syllables after it, and I cannot remember who voices Aziraphale. If you listen to this for any period of time, or if you know me in real life, I am terrible with names. But congratulations, Aziraphale dude and Peter thingy, you did a great job. And also there were people in the chat who were losing their marbles over Crowley's voice because, it sounded a little bit like Alan Rickman being a bit sultry, and some people were losing their marbles. Coming in at number 2, here's where, we're getting into controversial territory now, even more so than me saying that I prefer the adaptations to the book, but Season 1 of Good Omens. Clicked on this, you probably have seen at least a little bit of Good Omens. Absolutely fabulous. Again, Michael Sheen and David Tennant knocked it out of the park. It was so good. The 20-minute, half-an-hour cold open, flipping amazing. So I was in love with it from the moment I saw it. It took me a wee while to even be convinced to watch Good Omens, because I went to Catholic school, religion bores me to tears. But somehow, this managed to keep me entertained, and on a complete tangent, I joined a Discord group for Good Omens. It's actually the Sendaria discussion group. Go watch Sendaria and her theory videos, because I've been watching those myself, and there will be, readings from the Bible to help back up a theory, and I'm realizing, oh frick, am I actually listening to the Bible willingly? oh, that's a new feeling, because I spent all 7 years of Catholic school trying to pretend that I wasn't in Catholic school. I do not remember a single prayer. I still occasionally get hymns stuck in my head because the damn things were too catchy, but very good work to get me to watch it is all I'm going to say about that. And one of the sappier, sadder bits about season 1 of Good Omens is that Terry Pratchett, one of the co-writers of the book, asked Neil Gaiman to do it himself, and Neil Gaiman took the adaptation as kind of a last wish to his friends, which is really freaking sweet. Terry and Neil made appearances in Radio Omens as a little, what were they, like traffic patrol people? Great. Crowley was trying to outspeed them. And I think I heard somewhere that there was Terry and Neil had planned that if there was ever a movie or whatever, that they would make a cameo somewhere, like eating together, and then Neil tried to do it himself for some part in the show, but couldn't because it was just too emotional. That hurts my heart. And you can really feel, like, the love and care that went into this thing. Michael Sheen was a huge fan of the books even before he got involved in the whole thing. The man essentially spent 30 years shipping Aziraphale and Crowley, and let me assure you, he has used his time as Aziraphale to show that off very, very well. And I feel like anything to do with Aziraphale and Crowley is a little bit weaker in Good Omens, especially season 1. I'm sorry, I just don't like kids, and I don't particularly like the book or show versions of Newt. It just doesn't quite do it for me. I am a big fan of Mr. Shadwell and Madam Tracy, though. They are just great nearly every version they're on. Also, on another complete tangent about Radio Omens, there's a bit that mentions Sergeant Shadwell takes his tea with like 8 things of sugar and a thing of condensed milk. That started a very lengthy debate about condensed milk, because yeah, it turns out when you get a bunch of neurodivergent people in a chat, 2 things happen. You all wind up typing out the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody and most of Good Old Fashioned Loverboy, and you also have a very, very long discussion about condensed milk that winds up with people in actual factions. So let it be known, I survived the great condensed milk war of, feck me, what year is it? 2023? Ugh, it feels like we're halfway through 2024 already and we haven't even started the damn thing. But my little existential crisis aside, if you've been keeping up, you'll know what number 1 is, but I want to give an honorary mention to the musical, because I can't find the whole thing. It would be on this list if I could listen to it or watch it, but there are only a few little clips of it online, like 10 minutes worth of it. I think Terry Pratchett gave it his seal of approval, so it has to be good. Again, it's a very different version of Aziraphale and Crowley to the ones we're used to, but it's good. And from the teeny tiny bit I've seen of Anathema in that, she might actually be my favourite version. They went in a very sort of punk snarky direction for her, so yeah, if I ever get to see the full thing, I will be probably making a video about that, because I love musical adaptations. They're so good. The Lightning Thief musical is still my favorite musical to date, and I could probably sing all those songs. And coming up number 1, season 2 of Good Omens. I know there was a controversy about this one. I was around for, which has been the first time in a while I've actually been around for online controversy around something. Look, I loved it. They put the focus almost entirely on Aziraphale and Crowley, which was the right move, because that is who we're here for. I'm sorry, who tuned in to season 1 thinking, oh, I really want to see Wensleydale? No one tuned in for Wensleydale. Look, there was already talk, like, in the book of Aziraphale and Crowley being a couple. They come across as incredibly married, or at the very least queer platonic partners. For anyone not in the know, queer platonic partners is just essentially having a buddy system. Instead of a date friend, or sometimes with a date friend, you just have a best friend. So Aziraphale and Crowley's relationship has always been a little bit difficult to sum up, because they're not 2 men, they are an angel and a demon, and according to Neil Gaiman, Crowley's gender fluid and Aziraphale's agender, so you can't really quantify it by 2 homosexual dudes, especially because I am a very big supporter of the Crowley is asexual theory. Come on, he did not understand what was going on with the unicorns, and that is all I'm going to say about that. And what I really, really loved about season 2 is just everything was so well set up. We're officially in the spoilery section, but it came out a few months ago, so I'm allowed this. Aziraphale and Crowley got a divorce at the end of season 2. in a very, very dramatic scene that is still hurting my heart to this day, but it didn't feel contrived. I know that that was the big reason why a lot of people didn't like this season. Look, Aziraphale and Crowley have spent 6,000 years peeking over their shoulders and being scared to actually be with each other. Of course, they are not going to have an easy time of it. I've got a lot of religious trauma, and I haven't had nearly 6,000 years to get that already. So I am not surprised that things went so immediately pear-shaped. Yes, that was a reference. And a large part of what makes Good Omens as good as it is the fans. There is so much fan content for this. There are fan songs, there are animatics. A large chunk of my most recent addition to Spotify have been Good Omens related. It's so good. This has been one of the individual moments of season 2 are so good, but when you watch them all together and you stack them all up, it's like a really, really fabulous jigsaw puzzle. And I have no idea what's going to happen next. I have heard so many takes on the divorce thing. Everything from Aziraphale was mind controlled, or it was just manipulation, or Aziraphale's playing heaven, or Crowley's going to become a supreme lord of hell or whatever now that Beelzebub fecked off to the stars with their date friend. Yeah, quiet, gentle, and romantic, he said. Quiet, gentle, and romantic for Beelzebub and Jim, not for the ineffable spouses. And I personally say ineffable spouses when describing the pair of them because, well, neither of them are specifically gendered, and B, this could be me just shamelessly projecting all of my religious trauma and being on the AROA spectrum, but Good Omens means a lot to people on the AROA spectrum because it isn't so easily quantifiable. A lot of us just grew up feeling broken because we didn't have the experience of, oh yeah, this is how we work, and how we work is completely fine. We usually got a lot of, oh, you'll grow out of it, you haven't found a boyfriend yet. So seeing two people who you know they love each other, you know that they care about each other, you know that that is their designated person, but they are not immediately falling onto a bedspread in every scene they're together in, which was such a relief for me. Again, very, very, very asexual. It bores me to tears when there's kind of like a cutesy little romantic plot going on, and oops, nope, here comes the sex. Drives me mental. That's also a huge reason why I like the Magnus Archives, because the main character of that show is specifically Ace. This is by no means the last time I will cover Good Omens on this podcast, but that is my ranking done for the day. A few things I should probably mention because, I am doing this vaguely professionally now. I figured out what an MP3 file is. That's professional. So, the new upload schedule for this podcast is every other Friday, and I've also got a Tumblr art blog, which is mostly fan art at the minute, but I've also got a couple illustrations of the works of my original characters. Go follow me on that! There's been a lot of Good Omens recently, but it's good Omens. We like it. And since I think that's all I have to say today, my name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and this has been Bold and Bright.